is the original capital. Any financial capital, likewise the capital of a person in terms of his, in terms of what actually comes in use. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam का इशारे पाक है कि यकीन ही पूरा ईमान है. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that yaqeen is, yani firm conviction is iman in its completion. Huzur sallallahu alaihi wasallam का इशारे पाक है कि यकीन सीखो. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that learn firm conviction in Allah Almighty. और इस इशार का मतलब ये है, and the meaning of this is कि यकीन वालों के पास एहतिमाम से बैठो. That spend time with the people with यकीन. उनका इत्तिबा करो, follow them, ताकि उसकी बरकत से तुम में यकीन की पुख्तगी पैदा हो. Through whose barakah you can get some firm conviction in यकीन. उसको अल्लाह ताला शान की कुदरत कामिला और सिफात का ऐसा ही यकीन हो, that a person should have such firm, he should have such firm conviction in the complete power of Allah Almighty and in his all his attributes, जैसे कि चांद सूरज के वजूद का, in the way that a person has the full conviction of the existence of the moon and the sun. वो उसका कामिल यकीन रखता हो, he has full conviction that there is a sun there is a moon there, हर चीज़ का करने वाला सिर्फ वही एक पाक ज़ात है. At the same time you should have firm conviction that the person doing everything, the individual that's doing everything is only the being of Allah Almighty. और ये दुनिया के सारे असबाब उसके इरादा के साथ मुसख्खर है, and all the means inside the dunya are under his control. जैसा कि मारने वाले के हाथ में लकड़ी के उसमें इसमें लकड़ी को कोई शख्स भी दखिल नहीं समझता. And the asbab, the means should be like the stick in a person, in the hand of a person who's hitting. Yani the stick itself is not the one that's hitting, but it's the man who's doing everything. और जब ये पुख्ता हो जाएगा, when they have the firm conviction that everything in the dunya is a sabab, and the person and the individual who's got control over everything is Allah Almighty, तो उसको तवक्कुल रिदा और तस्लीम सहल हो जाएगी. When he has this firm conviction, then reliance, tawakkul, rida, being happy with what Allah Almighty has decreed, and taslim, yani obeying what Allah Almighty has done becomes easy for him. नीज उसको उसका पुख्ता यकीन हो कि रोज़ी का ज़िम्मा सिर्फ अल्लाह ताला शान का है. At the same time, he should have firm conviction that the responsibility of his livelihood and his rozi and his risk is only Allah Almighty. उसने हर शख्स की रोज़ी का ज़िम्मा ले रखा है. He has taken the responsibility of the risk and the livelihood of every individual. जो उसके मुक़द्दर में है वो उसको बरहाल मिलकर ही रहेगा. Whatever has been destined for the individual, then ultimately he shall get. और जो मुक़द्दर में नहीं है, what has not been destined for the person, वो किसी हाल भी मिल ना सकेगा. In any situation whatsoever, he shall not receive it. और जब उसका यकीन पुख्ता हो जाएगा, and when this firm conviction becomes solid, तो रोज़ी की तलब में एतदाल पैदा हो जाएगा. In the seeking of his livelihood, there be some equilibrium, there be some balance in how he seeks his livelihood. हिर्स और तमा जाती रहेगी. Then being greedy and coveting what other people have, these type of illnesses shall go themselves. जो चीज़ मुयस्सर न होगी उस पर रंज न होगा. Whatever he cannot be acquired through ease, he shall not be feeling sorry for himself over that. नीज उसको उसका यकीन हो कि अल्लाह ताला शान हर भलाई और बुराई का हर वक्त देखने वाला है. At the same time, he would have the firm conviction that Allah Almighty is the one who oversees every goodness and every badness that a person receives or reaches. एक ज़र्रा के बराबर कोई नेकी या बुराई हो तो अल्लाह ताला शान के इल्म में है. Everything, even an iota of piety that a person does, or an iota of sins that a person does, then this is in the knowledge of Allah Almighty. और उसका बदला नेक या बद ज़रूर मिलेगा. And he shall receive the reward or the punishment accordingly. वो नेक काम करने पर सवाब का ऐसा ही यकीन रखता हो, then he has such a belief in receiving the pious reward for a pious deed, जैसा कि रोटी खाने से पेट भरना, in the way that he has firm belief that when eating a chapati, his stomach becomes full. और बुरे काम पर अजाब, and at the same time he has such a firm conviction of punishment on an evil deed, on a sin, को ऐसा ही यकीन समझता हो जैसा कि सांप के काटने से जहर का चरना, in the way that poison spreads throughout the body by the biting of a snake. वो नेकी की तरफ ऐसा ही माइल हो जैसा कि खाने पीने की तरफ. He is inclined to piety in the way that a person is inclined towards food and drink. और गुनाह से ऐसा ही डरता हो जैसा कि सांप बिच्छू से. In that he avoids sins in the way that he avoids a snake. और जब ये पुख्ता हो जाएगा, when he has his firm belief, तो हर नेकी की कमाने की उसकी पूरी रग़बत होगी. Then he shall have the full eagerness to earn every single pious deed. और हर बुराई से बचने का पूरा एहतिमाम होगा. At the same time, he will be extremely diligent in avoiding every single sin. So that's the 8th sign, that the person has the full belief that everything is from Allah Almighty. The 9th sign, नवी अलामत यह है कि उसकी हर हरकत सुकून अल्लाह ताला का खौफ तबकता हो. In his every action, and when he's not even acting at the same time, then there's a fear of Allah, there's a consciousness of Allah and a fear of Allah that can be seen on him. उसकी अज़मत और जलाल और हैबत का असर उस शख्स की हर अदा से ज़ाहिर होता है. In his every single action, the greatness and the magnanimity of Allah Almighty can be seen in his every single action. उसके लिबास से, from his clothes, उसकी आदात से, from his habits, उसके बोलने से, from his speech, उसके चुप रहने से, from him remaining silent. हत्ता कि हर हरकत और सुकून से ये बात ज़ाहिर हो, up to such a point that his every single movement, and when he's not even making any movement, it becomes clear. उसकी सूरत देखने से अल्लाह ताला शान की याद ताज़ा होती है. When you see him, then Allah's remembrance of Allah becomes fresh in one's mind. सुकून वक़ार मस्कन तवाज़ु उसकी तबीयत बन गया हो. Remaining calm, remaining humble and remaining meek at the same time has become his nature. बेहुदा गुई यानी speaking here and there, लगो कलामी, speaking unnecessary, तकल्लुफ से बातें करने से गुरेज करता हो. He avoids speaking unnecessarily, he avoids speaking frivolously, and he avoids speaking in a way that's not natural. कि ये चीज़ें फ़ख्र और अकर की अलामत है. In that speaking like this is a sign of a person having pride in himself and feeling self-confident, and at the same time he's loving himself or being loving himself at the same time. Allah Ta'ala Shah se bekhaufi ki dalil hai. And when a person speaks like that, then it's a dalil, it's a proof that this person doesn't fear Allah Almighty. Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala ka irshad hai ki ilm seeko. Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala says that seek knowledge. Ilm ke liye sukoon aur waqar seeko. And for knowledge, learn how to remain calm and mature. जिससे इल्म हासिल करो उसके सामने निहायत तवाज़ु से रहो. The person from whom you gain knowledge, then remain extremely humble in front of them. जाबिर उलमा में से न बनो. Don't be from those ulama who are oppressive. हुज़ूर अक़दस सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम का इरशाद पाक है कि मेरी उम्र के बेहतरीन अफराद वो है जो मजमा में अल्लाह ताला शानों की वुसअत रहमत से खुश रहते हो. Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the best of individuals from my ummah are those who in a gathering become happy with the wideness of with the abundance of mercy of Allah Almighty. और तन्हाई में अल्लाह ताला शान के अज़ाब के खौफ से रोते हो. And when they're alone by themselves, they fear the azab and the punishment of Allah Almighty. उनके बदन ज़मीन पर रहते हो. Their bodies remain firm close to the ground. और उनके दिल आसमान की तरफ लगे रहते हैं, while their hearts are looking above to Allah Almighty in the heavens. हुज़ूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम से किसी ने पूछा कि सबसे बेहतर अमल क्या है. Somebody asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what is the best of actions? हुज़ूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फरमाया कि नाजायज़ उमूर से बचना. The best of actions is to avoid impermissible actions. और ये कि अल्लाह ताला शान के ज़िक्र से तेरी ज़बान तरोताज़ा रहे, and that your tongue remains moist with the zikr of Allah Almighty. किसी ने पूछा कि बेहतरीन साथी कौन है. Somebody asked, who is the best of companions? नबी करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फरमाया कि वो शख्स है कि अगर तू नेक काम से गफलत करे. He says that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the best companion is the person, if you were to carry out a pious deed, अगर तू नेक काम से गफलत करे, if you were to avoid carrying out a pious deed, तो वो तुझे मुतनब्बे कर दे, then he shall turn your attention towards that and he carry out the pious deed. और अगर तुझे खुद याद हो तो उसमें तेरी इआनत करे. And if you remember carrying out this pious action but you don't carry out yourself, then he assists you in fulfilling that pious action. किसी ने पूछा कि बुरा साथी कौन है. Somebody asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is the evil or wicked or the bad companion? नबी करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फरमाया कि वो शख्स है कि अगर तुझे नेक काम से गफलत हो, he is that person. If you become mindless or heedless of a pious action, तो वो मुतनब्बे करे, then he draws your attention to that. और वो मुतनब्बे ना करे, then he doesn't draw your attention to that. And if there's a pious action, if you're trying to do it, if you're heedless of it, then he doesn't tell you that you need to do that, such an action. और तू खुद करना चाहे तो उसमें तेरी इआनत न करे. And if you want to carry out a pious action, then he doesn't support you in it. किसी ने पूछा कि सबसे बड़ा आलिम कौन है? Somebody asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is the most knowledgeable? नबी करीम सल्लल्लाहु, who is the greatest alim? नबी करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फरमाया जो शख्स सबसे ज़्यादा अल्लाह ताला से डरने वाला हो. He said that the greatest alim is that person who fears Allah Almighty the most. किसी ने पूछा कि हम किन लोगों के पास ज़्यादातर अपनी नशिस्त रखे? Somebody asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to whom should we sit the most? हुज़ूर अक़दस सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फरमाया जिनकी सूरत से अल्लाह की याद ताज़ा होती है. Those people whose external appearance reminds and refreshes the remembrance of Allah Almighty. हुज़ूर अक़दस सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम का इशारे पाक है कि आखिरत में ज़्यादा बेफिक्र वो शख्स होगा जो दुनिया में फ़िक्रमंद रहा हो और आखिरत में ज़्यादा हंसने वाला वो होगा जो दुनिया में ज़्यादा रोने वाला हो. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that in the hereafter, the person without any worries will be that person who remain as greatly worried in the dunya. The person without any worries in the akhirah will be that person who remain greatly worried in the dunya. और आखिरत में ज़्यादा हंसने वाला, the person who shall laugh and smile the greatest in the hereafter, वो होगा जो दुनिया में ज़्यादा रोने वाला हो, will be that person who cried the most in the dunya. 10वीं अलामत यह है कि उसका ज़्यादा अहतमाम इन मसाइल से हो जो अमाल से ताल्लुक़ रखते हो, जायज़ नाजायज़ से ताल्लुक़ रखते हैं. The 10th alamat, just a few lines now. The 10th sign is that they have a great diligence to follow those masail of fiqh जो अमाल से ताल्लुक़ रखते हैं, that are concerning amal and the actions of the limbs. जायज़ नाजायज़ से ताल्लुक़ रखते हैं. It has a connection with what's permissible and what's impermissible. फुला अमल करना ज़रूरी, फुला अमल से बचना ज़रूरी है. They concern themselves with those masail that relate to what a person should do and what a person should avoid. इस चीज़ से फुला अमल ज़ाय हो जाते हैं. And they concern themselves with that information and that knowledge of masail that at the same time tells you that those actions ruin this particular amal khair or pious action. Masalan, fulan cheez se namaz टूट जाती है, that such a thing breaks the namaz. Miswak करने से ये फजीलत हासिल होती है, that by carrying out the miswak then one gets this many virtues etc etc. ऐसे उलूम से ज़्यादा बहस न करता हो जो महज दिमागी तफरीहात और तफरीहात हो ताकि लोग उसको मुहक्किक समझे, हकीम और फ़लसफ़र समझे. He avoids such ulum and such knowledge that are just intellectual or academic, and what the Imam Ghazali rahmatullah said, जो महज दिमागी तफरीहात हो, which are mental journeys or just of indulgence, frivolous mental indulgence, ताकि लोग उसको मुहक्किक समझे, so that people call them researchers, hakim, extremely wise, and falsafar समझे, and philosophers. Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah Alayhi says that this is the 10th sign of the ulama, that they actually deal and they actually concern themselves with knowledge that is actually useful in the amal for the akhirah, not those things that are academic, that are spending brain cells on acquiring such knowledge that makes a person a great researcher, a great muhakkik, a hakim, greatly wise, or a philosopher, but something that's actually practically useful in the akhirah. That's the 10th sign. Inshallah, there's 2 signs left. We'll finish off next week on Dhikr Majlis now. Subhanallah wa bihamdik, subhanakallah wa bihamdik, la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Inshallah, we'll be doing zikr for about 5-10 minutes, inshallah. Loud zikr, targhibi zikr, according to the way of the mashayikh, something that was carried out in the khanqas of all the mashayikh, our akabir, throughout the world. That we want tasbih of la ilaha illallah, one tasbih of illallah, and one tasbih or 2 tasbihs of Allah. For the beginning, what we should do is free the mind and empty the mind from all tafakkurat, all things worldly. the world, the people of the world, everything, just focus on Allah Almighty. Focus on the heart on Allah Almighty. We're just dabbling our feet in a great lake of tasawwuf, a great lake of marifat. There's so much to be done on the other side, to be going inside. We're just having a little taster. And the idea is to free the mind from everything, every single soch, every single vichar, every single thought that comes to the mind. And just focus on Allah Almighty. At the end of the day, it's only us, our actions, and Allah Almighty. And in the grave, it's only us. The family will be gone, everything will be gone. You close your eyes and you empty everything out and you focus on the heart. And so many illnesses in the heart, hasad, bughs, kina, ujub, riya, greediness, hatred. Remove everything from the heart one by one and just focus on Allah Almighty. The best of zikr is the zikr of La ilaha illallah. Before the zikr, just pray Qul Huwallah a few times and then we'll do the zikr of La ilaha illallah. And the idea is that you negate everything from the heart over your shoulder, throw it out, La ilaha. There's no deity. Everything has been negated from the heart. And then you implement and bring and introduce Allah Almighty into the heart with the second part of the kalima, illallah, that there is only Allah Almighty. And we do want tasbih of that. Thereafter, you consolidate and re-emphasize the second part of the kalima, illallah, 100 times. So you're consolidating that there is only Allah Almighty in the heart. You removed everything out of the heart. And thereafter, there is only Allah Almighty. So we do the zikr of Ism Zat, the name of Allah Almighty, Allah, 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 100 times, maybe 200 times, inshallah. So we're emphasizing that Allah Almighty is in the heart. So we begin with Qul Huwallahu Ahad a few times, and just free your mind from everything, inshallah. Zikr should be done with pabandi and with focus constantly, without missing a single day, and with the tawajjuh and the focus on Allah Almighty. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. La ilaha illallah, 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 Sayyiduna wa Nabiyyuna wa Habibuna wa Shafi'una وسندنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله، 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا الله، 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 لا إله إلا الله،
لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا إله إلا الله 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 سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا وسندنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا إله إلا الله 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 سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا وسندنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلا الله 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 لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الله 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 Allah, 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 Allah. لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Jazakallah, inshallah. We'll carry on next week. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.